What's up, man? Let me make this thing bigger. All
How's it
right.
going?
Well, I'm not the most computerly intelligent person, so
I bet you're more than Brian.
yes,
Yeah.
that would be an
Yeah.
accurate statement on that one. He doesn't have a cell phone yet.
I can't believe it. I was talking to Gary Hall about that the other day, and I guess Gary and Brian are close, and he says he's impossible to reach, but when I can get him, he's very helpful.
Well, he'll argue that he's the easiest person to reach because he said, just call him at my house. I'm there. Or, so, or email him, he responds. So,
Yeah.
What's up, man?
Yeah, man. The last time we probably saw each other was when Robinson played Woodson back in '84. It didn't go well for Robinson, but I think that's the last time I saw you.
Yeah, I was telling somebody, I'm like, that's exactly what I thought. I know we played little league football, whatever they call ankle biters, and I'm like, when's the last time I saw him? But I don't get up that way much, so
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we put this together this Facebook group called Nova Legends, and
Okay.
we all had too much time in our hands during the lockdown.
Right.
And so
right.
people started posting their high school basketball stuff, just northern region stuff, and some of the Northwest region, like some of the guys from the Woodbridge, Potomac teams as well. And it really caught on. Guys have been holding on to a lot of this. Guys and gals have been holding to a lot of these close, narrow losses and big victories. And we posted photos and all these things. And then we started talking about some of the stars of the northern region. And we talk a lot about, obviously your teammate Tommy Amaker. And
I listened to Tommy's. I listened to your thing you did with Tommy and Oliver, and they were good. It was really good. I mean, like obviously I know Tommy, and I know Oliver more through coaching than anything else. So I actually listened to those two. I didn't listen much to Grant Hill because I don't really know Grant Hill. He's younger than him.
Yeah,
I know him, but I don't know him. So
yeah, exactly. He's just he's just a small player on the basketball horizon, But but anyway, everyone in Northern Virginia knows your brother because he's had an incredible career at Lake Braddock and Hayfield. Just a great coach, great success, and he was a player at Lake Braddock as well. But and people Coach Jenkins has reminded people about your success as a coach down in Augusta and Belmont Abbey. But what people forget, and what I remember, is what a great player you were. And you had maybe unfortunate timing in that you probably didn't play the point get a long run as a starter because you did play with Tommy.
No, didn't. Yep.
But for those like guys like me who knew you, you were also a great player. So I was excited to talk to you about your basketball journey. It's a little different, but why don't we just start?
Absolutely, mine is different now, like in a weird way. So, but it'll be this will be interesting because I listened to your one with Tommy, and like Oliver one with more intrigued me because of the coaching part, and listen to Tommy's bringing up names. I'm like, oh yeah. So I'm not going to be as good on some of those names just because I do this for a living in different parts of the country. So.
Well, it's a lot. So where did you grow up? Where did you guys?
I grew up in Kings Park, and my parents moved over to Long Branch. I think that's what's called. Yep, Long Branch, right across on Braddock Road. So I know one of the questions you can ask is about my brother. He went to Lake Braddock. We're in Kings Park District, and we moved over to Long Branch. I can't remember. I'm probably in 6th grade maybe. And I went to Frost Middle School. And my brothers were going to Lake Braddock, and I was eventually going to Woodson.
Yeah. You had two brothers, right?
Yeah. Brian, who's a great high school coach, who, to be honest with you, should be on this podcast more than me because he's still up there. My other brother, Chris, is living in Birmingham. He's a professor of English at Sanford University. Been down there for 20-something years.
Did Chris play basketball as well?
No, Chris played basketball, played baseball. And then Chris went to St. Mary's in San Antonio, Texas. And just kind of went south.
So I know you played football. Obviously, we were football teammates for many years. I don't know if you remember much about it because you said your memory is not great. But Coach Don Buckley was our coach, and he was very much a Vince Lombardi disciple. And we won 4 years in a row. We were the champs. I think we lost one game. 2 years we were unscored upon. He was very much a disciplinarian. Have you ever thought about some of the things that Buckley taught us as a coach? Are those things that you've ever used in your
ironically, when you mentioned his name, I remember playing was the ankle biters. Is that what we called it? I can't remember what we called it. The Sharks. I do remember the Sharks. And I do remember the discipline of making every rep right. I don't remember the name of the field. The field's over there in Burke somewhere. But I remember running up that hill a lot for something if we made mistakes. I don't remember why. But no, the discipline and the execution that he required, what were we, 9, 10 years old maybe? I don't remember exactly how old we were, was probably ahead of our times for football.
We were. I think Charlie Taylor once saw us play. We played against the Suns team, and he said that's the best football team I've ever seen play. Because we would just demolish people. It was between our it was 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So we were anywhere from 75 pound to 110 pound. And it was funny because you were a big kid. You were not. You were one of our biggest kids on our team.
Yeah, I had become a lineman because of that, but that's a whole other issue.
Yeah. We had so many great players that ended up playing college sports. Not just football, but soccer and baseball, whatever. But so I didn't even know you played basketball, and then I started playing travel basketball, and we ended up on different Braddock Road teams. I was on the team with Derek Turner, Derek Hensley, Vince Sanovica. There was a guy from Woodson named Corey. I can't remember his last name.
Okay.
And you were on the other Braddock Road team. Do you have any recollection who was on your team?
I don't remember who was on that team. How old were we? 12, probably?
Yeah. Like John Bonatti or John Donato?
Yeah. I think, if I remember correctly, wasn't it county ball or something weird like that? We called it county ball when the best players in the county played against each other? Or is that before that age? I can't remember.
Yeah, we called it county. We call it county. They call it travel. They call it travel now.
Yeah. We were probably the beginning parts of travel basketball. It ain't like what it looks now. I can tell you that right now. So yeah, I do remember faintly just a little bit of playing basketball. I played basketball, baseball, and football. I stopped. Let me get this correct. I stopped playing football as I entered high school. But I do remember this. I was the manager on the football team when I was in 8th grade at Frost. And the reason I was in the manager of the football team is because I could get in the gym and play basketball as part of it. Okay. So, and then when I got to high school, I'm like, why don't I play football? I just did the manager thing just so I could get access to the back gym at Woodson. That's where all the bad players went, the back gym. And so in baseball, I do remember playing baseball until probably about my sophomore year, maybe freshman, sophomore year. And I remember playing for old coach, and we'd be practicing late at night. He'd be firing baseballs out of one of those shooting guns, whatever they call it. And I'm like, what is this? I'm like, let me just go play basketball. So I stopped playing basketball. I think I looked at a third strike and I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. Let's go ahead and concentrate on hoops. So I didn't play football in high school. I think maybe 1 year of baseball, and that was it.
Yeah. So just real quickly, did you you were very advanced as a travel county basketball player? Is that because you'd played with Brian? You played with Brian's friends and
it's funny. Yeah, I've been doing the college coaching thing for a long time now. I always tell people I recruit, when you're the youngest kid, you're usually the best player. Okay, not because I was the best player, but I think what happened was I got taken to at Kings Park. There was an outdoor court, down there in the thing, and Seidenstricker up there, and is it Burke somewhere?
Yeah, still there.
Truro over there by Woodson. So if you were going to play at a young age, you went with your brother to the park. And I was 4 years younger than Brian and 3 years younger than Chris. So I was just a little kid waiting to get in the game. So I think it helped my skills advance to the point where I got better at a younger age than they were able to, because I played against older people my whole life. And until I went to high school, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So Brian played at Lake Braddock. My recollection, because we lived in Lake Braddock at the time, you may remember that. I don't know. I'm not sure. Before we moved to the Robinson area, Brian was more of a pure point guard. He wasn't the scorer you were. Is that right?
Right. Well, okay. Ironically, a kid I coach here is high school coach at Mount St. Joe's. Clatch has a great line. There are point guards and there are points guards. Okay. And games nowadays, points guards is what everybody looked for. Brian was more of a set it up point guard. And he played with Ross Taylor, who was a great player in high school. Mm-hmm. He played for Hooks. I call him Hooks, Carl Hensley, because he shot a hook shot, I think, is why they call him Hooks. Yeah. And then obviously playing for Red, he wasn't into points guards, I can tell you that. And I just developed a way to play, and I was able to score more my senior year because we had no choice. We weren't as good my senior year. So I was able to score a little bit and shoot a little bit more. That was before the 3-point line. But Yeah, I think selfishly, I probably looked to shoot more than my brothers, no doubt. They did their
Yeah.
careers.
So when you went to Woodson as a freshman, you played JV as a freshman, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think now exactly on this whole thing. I think I played freshman. Matter of fact, I did. I played freshman ball, and then Coach Parks, Glenn Parks, was our JV coach, and I played JV. And I didn't make varsity until my junior year. I do remember Red saying I'm gonna call it the old gym, the small gym, back where the crappy players played. He's told me, he's like, hey, you're a good player. You could probably start on most teams in the area, but you're playing behind a great player, Tommy Amaker. Tommy was I guess when I was a freshman, Tommy was a sophomore. But I do have to tell you the story. My freshman year, I think Red used to move us up to varsity. I don't know if Julian, did you do that at Robinson where they moved you up and you sat on the bench during the big games? Okay.
I wasn't good enough to be considered for that, but they did
Yeah,
it.
you were definitely not a points guard. You were a point guard because I remember you couldn't shoot. I backed off. I do remember that much. Okay?
Thanks for remembering that.
Don't let your kids tell you could shoot because you really couldn't shoot. I do remember that part. So anyway, my freshman year, I got moved up to varsity, and we're playing in the regional tournament. And I want to say it was against Hayfield, and it might have been the game that Chewy was coaching Hayfield, because Chewy lives in Aiken, South Carolina right now. So Chewy was, and Hayfield beat us. All right, but the big part of the story was Tommy's shoe blew out. Okay, during the game. So Red looked down to the bench, and I guess I can say this. He said, "Which one of you sons of bitch wear size 12?" I was so happy to have a size 10 shoe, okay? Because whoever had the 12 shoe, it went off and went to Tommy's, and Tommy wore it. Tommy doesn't remember that story, but I remember that because I was so happy not to wear his shoe size. But yeah, so I did not play varsity until my junior year, and I played behind Tommy my junior year. I played along with him. Joe Deck was a point guard. That was kind of Tommy's backup. So I was really the third string point guard on a team that was really good.
Yeah, I mean, was that frustrating to you, or did you use it as a way to get better because you're playing against Tommy in practice every day?
I don't think I was old enough to be frustrated. Like I said, I do college basketball for a living, so this is a disaster what I'm involved in every day. Great kids transfer schools and switch. I never looked at that. I just thought Tommy was better than me. I was battling Joe Deck as the backup point guard. I had to outplay him, and Joe was the same year as Tommy. So yeah, you have to feel for Joe. He was a senior, and Tommy was a senior. He never got to play. So I didn't. I just wanted to get better, man. And I tell my players down here all the time, I grew up playing outside, okay? And they look at me and they just laugh. I go, man, dudes, I grew up playing outside. I never had access to a gym all day. And, and we're the same age. You couldn't just get to a gym. I mean, you had to, I think, right? Unless Robinson built you all a practice facility out there.
Yeah.
So ironically, if you remember this, Julie, when we were in high school, it was Lake Braddock, actually. Lake Braddock was open on Sundays from 2 to 5. You remember that, right?
Like the rec program or whatever.
Is that okay? The rec, and it was Robinson open? It was just Lake Braddock.
Same thing, but Lake Braddock had better games.
Right. Okay. So as a good player, you would go over there and play on Sunday, and there was no load management. I don't know that stuff nowadays. So you might play on Friday, practice on Saturday, and then Sunday you would go play. But that was your way to get into a gym. Otherwise, you had to go outside and play. It's kind of, I just never really played inside. So I didn't know better. I didn't know better to get access to, we call them YMCAs down here, but they call them 24-hour fitness centers up in DC area, whatever they're calling those things now. So yeah, what your kids are able to do in a gym, we couldn't do. I don't remember. Do you remember getting to a gym like inside?
Just like you, the rec programs, and then like our high school coach would keep the gym open. During in the spring after the season was over, so we could play some then. But that's when we were already in high school. But as a young player, you couldn't get on the court because those are controlled by the older kids, and they had to pick you for you to get on the court.
Yeah, even at Lake Braddock, last time I was up there a few years ago, like Brian, they play pickup every day after school. And there's the good court and there's the bad court. Like the bad court, you don't get on the good court. So no, it's very true. And I watch all the stuff nowadays with kids throwing tennis balls in the air and working out in all these gyms. I'm like, how do you guys get into gym? And I know how they get into gyms now, but we just never did that. like I said, I grew up playing outside. That's kind of how we played. If you lost, you sat down for 2 or 3 days.
You know what's interesting is the mentality. So here you are, you're a really good player, and you averaged a lot as a kid. It wasn't like, obviously you said you want to get better, but you're always a good player. You were happy, you were content on the team and with and without playing. Nowadays, kids would transfer to a private school. The parents would move to a place where they could play. No kid who had your kind of credentials would sit on the bench now. The parents would move them somewhere else.
No, it's sad, very, very sad, but it's true. Yeah, everybody's looking for the perfect situation. It's almost like middle school kids are picking their high school teams on where they can have an impact. And that's just not the way it is. You see it right now in the NBA. Guys are forming super teams, and there were super teams back when we grew up too, but not to the extent right now. If you watch an NBA game now, I happen to watch Atlanta Hawks and Houston Rockets yesterday, and the Rockets they're terrible. I mean, they're a terrible NBA team. People just trying to formulate super AAU teams. Just go compete and get better, man. That's doesn't happen much anymore, but I still believe some kids are that way.
Yeah. Well, so Tommy and Pat Whitting and those guys undercover, they finally graduate. So it's going to be your turn, your senior year, our senior year. And you got some guys that I know, like Greg Kimball, you got Jim McLaughlin, friends of mine. David Hathaway was a good player. Yes. So this was your year. None of you guys have played very much before. Were you guys optimistic going into your senior year?
We were, and looking back on it, we were unproven people. We were like green bananas. We hadn't really developed yet. I would say that Dave, because he was 6'7", Hathaway, was probably one of the better players because he was big. Jimmy Mack, was a 3-sport guy. I don't know if he finished playing baseball, but a football player, and played football at UPenn. Greg Kimball was a great soccer player. So we didn't have the experience that, Pat Whitting played on the varsity for a long time and scored a lot of points. Tommy was there for 4 years. So it was definitely a different transition. We weren't as good, but we should have been as good. Who won the district that year? You asked me if I remember my senior. I don't remember much, but who won it that year?
I did a podcast on the '84 Northern Region Final Four, and 2 of the teams were from our district. Lake Braddock won the district, and TC Williams. Lake Braddock won the regular season, and then
TC won the
TC won the regular season. Lake Braddock won the district tournament, and they won the playback. So that was a TC team with Tyrone Shaw.
I remember him. Yep.
Yeah, Glenn Williams, who we guarded, and James Clark, Calvin Wood. Yep. I mean, they were just loaded with players. And then I don't want to forget anyone on the team. And then Lake Braddock, of course, had Derek Turner, Derek Hensley, Vince Sanavica, Greg Smith, Mike Newell. Yep. So those were the class. But you guys were a solid third. And one thing that Coach Jenkins reminded me of this week was that you had a 37-point game against Mount Vernon, the eventual regional champion. Yeah, you scored 37 points in one of those games.
I scored a bunch of points. Yeah, they pressured us, and I think Coach Jenkins used the term "a break." I don't remember, how we did it, but they would pressure us and they'd flash, and I would take off. And I shot a bunch of layups against. That was Brian Miller and Frank Smith, and I think we won that game. I think we lost. Well, I had big games against both of them. Ironically, Coach McCool's son played for me at Belmont Abbey. Okay. Actually, when I was assistant, Matt McCool. So Matt played, I was assistant at Augusta. I recruited Matt to come here, and then I left to go to Hampton. And then when I got the Belmont Abbey job, Matt came and played for me at Belmont Abbey. Okay. So, me and Coach McCool always joke about that. You scored 37 points, but you lost. Okay. But so Matt's a Secret Service guy right now in the DC area. Yeah. Okay. So that's what he does for a living. Yeah. And Coach McCool actually lives in Greensboro, Georgia, about an hour and 15 minutes from me where I live. And,
that's great.
Yeah, he used to come to some of our games, and then his health has deteriorated a little bit. His wife Joy still lives with him. He's got grandchildren down in the Atlanta area. So I talked to him. I actually called him. It was during the pandemic. I can't remember. I was looking for Matt's address because I had something I wanted to send Matt. So I talked to him and Joy, and obviously my brother still calls Coach McCool.
Did you ever talk tactics with Coach McCool?
Yes, actually, you know what? It's funny. Trying to think what year it was. I went and met with him. I had a team. We had a pretty good run here. We had a lot of good players, and I wanted to kind of change what we're doing defensively. So I drove over to Greensboro, Georgia, sat on his back deck, me and my assistant, and we talked defensive philosophy. And that year, I knew we were only going to have 10 good. We were going to have 10 players. We were going to have no studs. Okay, no All-American types. So I wanted to kind of play different defensively, and I incorporated some things. I do remember one thing always told me: if you're a pressing coach, you absolutely have to take the day before a game. You got to go light with your players because you're a pressing coach. You're going to lose your legs. So load management by Coach McCool before that was a prominent term. And so I did talk basketball with him and more defensive stuff. And he was a great coach. I mean, him and Coach Jenkins, phenomenal coaches.
Yeah. So Woodson, like us, you guys get out in the district semifinals. Your high school career is over. How did you end up at Belmont Abbey?
Okay, I can tell you kind of a weird story. We're playing the Beach Ball Classic. My senior, we won it my junior year. Red can tell you the score of every one of those games. I know we played a team from Kentucky. I know we played a team from Miami because nobody spoke English. And we played some else. So we played the number one team in 3 different states, and we won it my junior year. So my senior year, we go down and play, and that's when Michael Irvin was in the Beach Ball Classic. Okay, and a weird story. Andy was a year behind me, was going to go in the dunk contest, and Andy was just a big old football guy, and he really had no dunks. And Michael Irvin came in. People were getting ready. He goes, "Hey, which one of you guys is the guy going to Notre Dame for football?" And he said, "Well, I am." He said, "Well, I'm Michael Irvin. I'm the best receiver in the country. I'm going to the U." And he starts talking all this smack. I'm like, "Who is this character?" Okay. Well, Michael Irvin. Okay. So anyway, I must have played pretty well. And then a guy named Clint Bryan, who's my current athletic director here at Augusta, was assistant coach at Clemson. He recruited Tommy really hard to go to Clemson when Tommy was coming out, and obviously didn't make the cut. But Clint played at Bishop McNamara High School. Well, Clint played at a place called Belmont Abbey College. So when he saw me play, he called the coach at Belmont Abbey, Eddie Payne, and said, exact words, "There's a fat little white point guard who doesn't turn the ball over here that can play. You need to come recruit him." And Coach Payne came to see me play in December, and then I ended up visiting Belmont Abbey after I actually visited Belmont Abbey during my senior year, and then signed to play there. Kind of a weird connection.
Did you consider anywhere else besides Belmont Abbey?
I visited, actually Longwood, ironically recruited me pretty hard because I went to a basketball camp. Did you go to that camp? Red was doing some moneymaker thing. We did some of that in Longwood, and all the guys from Northern Virginia were down there playing, and a couple other people. But Longwood recruited me hard. I actually visited St. Mary's in Texas.
Yeah.
Who was the coach? Eddie Tapscott from American came and looked, because of Pat Whitting. Late in the process, when David Hathaway was going to Air Force prep school, some of the military academies, I'm like, nah, that's not me. I don't think I can do that. So real firm, hard offer. I would say Belmont Abbey was my really only firm, hard offer. But I was recruited, visited a couple of different places. But Belmont Abbey put the money on the table and said, here's a scholarship.
Just real quick, did David end up going to Air Force?
David went to Air Force prep. I don't think I saw him long years ago. I don't think he finished playing there, but then he did finish from the academy. Though. He did finish going to the academy. I'm almost positive he had to go to prep school first. Everybody does.
Yeah, my teammate Jeff Bowling, who was a year behind us, good guard. He ended up playing at Air Force, so he must have known David out there.
Did he finish out there playing? At Air Force?
He played. He was all-time leading assists in the WAC for a while. He played against, I think, Tim. Yeah, he had a great career. He was player of the year in Northern District the year after we graduated. Very underrated player. Just scrappy, great shooter. Love playing with him. So anyway, we're going to Belmont Abbey. Oliver and I were talking about this the other day. The Division II was different then than it is now. Like, for example, most of the Division II schools in Virginia are gone. Like Radford was Division II, Old Dominion was Division II in the late, mid to late 70s. But really only the historical Black colleges are left that are Division II. Yeah. What was Division II back then, and what is Division II now?
Well, actually, Belmont Abbey then was NAIA, okay, which was on the process of going to Division II. So I do remember a couple of things. Well, I'll flash back, and I know you talked to Tommy about it. When we lost to T.C. Williams, okay, it was a heartbreaking loss. But I remember either a week before or something, he's sitting in a locker room, and Red had a weird thing. He never went on the practice floor until he met with the team. I've never seen a coach do that in the country. So we used to stay in the locker room at Woodson until he came down, probably always late. Red was always late, probably selling us some Converse shoes or something, what he's going to do. But anyway, he would always talk to the team. So I remember one day Tommy looked at me and goes, man, my career's almost over. I'm like, yeah. He goes, I wonder if I'm good enough to play at Duke. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, teams came around, team like, hey, Tommy, you're a good player. You're all mad. So fast forward to my senior year, Belmont Abbey recruits me. I have no idea what Belmont Abbey is. I have no earthly idea anything about the place. I got a brochure in the mail. Okay. So I flew down for a visit and was there for their homecoming. And I sat in the gym and watched the game. And I said, these guys think I can play here? That's exactly what I thought when I went down there. I'm like, what do these coaches see in me that think I can play with these dudes? Okay. Well, Coach Payne saw something in me that made me think I was good enough to play there. Nowadays, kids go into college thinking they're going to have a whole lot more impact than they think they're going to have, just like they think in high school. So I went down to Belmont Abbey, in a weird way, Robert Frost poem, 2 rows diversion in wood. I took the one less traveled by. Ain't nobody go to Belmont Abbey from Northern Virginia. Okay. Everybody went to UVA, couldn't get to UVA. He went to, what was it? Radford.
Matt, yeah.
Old Dominion, VCU, whatever. So here I go and commit to a place, Belmont, North Carolina. I had no idea what I was getting into. And I seriously thought, am I good enough to play here? And the same thing that Tommy said to me right before towards the end of senior year. I think, wow, that was true. That was me, because I got down there and 6'8", 6'7". There's some dudes now like this, Arnie Russell was good. Tyrone Shaw was good. I played with guys in college just as good as those guys. So
Right.
I was just, so very fortunate to play for a phenomenal, two phenomenal college coaches in a weird situation at Belmont Abbey.
Can you remind us quickly what NAIA is? It's
NAIA is National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, and it was kind of the thing before Division II. Oliver played Division II and NAIA were kind of separate. Now the NAIA is kind of just almost fallen apart to the point where there's probably very, very few NAIA schools left. So the NAIA national tournament, you had to win your district, kind of like the old NCAA tournament, and you had to go play in Kansas City. So only one team from each, we were in District 26, I think it was, could go to the national tournament. So the whole NAIA tournament was in Kansas City, Missouri. Played 8 games on one day, 8 games the next day. It's unbelievable, but it's almost deteriorated right now. It's still floating around a little bit, but Division II is where everybody's at right now.
Yeah, and Belmont Abbey now is NCAA Division II.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay, so what was your career like? Did you your freshman year? Did you start right away?
Okay, so ironically, my very first game, my freshman year, I started only out of default. Only out of default. We had a great player named Charlie Hubers, All-American. Okay, same thing. This is all lessons in coaching almost. We go to play in a tournament in Savannah, Georgia. Now this is Belmont Avenue, Indiana. We take 2 vans. Okay, so this is not luxurious by any means. So I don't know I'm starting because I didn't know Charlie wasn't playing. So I started my first game my freshman year in college. Okay, it was the only game I started that year. I started my first game, and I didn't know I was starting until like before the game. Coach Payne's like, "Hey, you're going to start at the point. We're going to play Vince off the ball." I'm like, "Really?" Okay, and Charlie was an All-American. So when I got in the van, there were 3 seats in the van. I'm sitting in the middle of a 3rd seat. I see the other van. Charlie's like laid flat out. I'm like, "Okay, this is how it goes." So we eat our first team meal at Morrison's cafeteria, and I spend over $5. The assistant coach says, "Give me your 25 cents." He went over the meal limit. I'm like, and I go, "Well, Charlie just spent 8. Well, Charlie's an All-American. You're a freshman. Okay, I see how this works in college." So, ironically, I started my first year, my very first game, my freshman year. We lost in the game before to go to the NAIA national tournament, and then for the 3 years after that, I started every game. My sophomore, junior, and senior year, I started every single game of my career. So, really odd that. One of the weaknesses I have as a coach, I say, is I really don't know how to coach the bench, because I can say my sophomore, junior, senior year, I started every game and I played 35, played all the time. So, as I've gotten older, I've developed my bench a little bit. So I didn't understand what a bench mentality was. My roommate in college never started. He was like, "Oh, you're so lucky." I guess I'm better than you. So, so I played at Belmont Abbey, had a great career, and, very fortunate to get to college and play.
Yeah. What kind of point guard were you? Were you a point guard or were you a point guard?
No, hey, no, baby. Michael, we ran the flex. I threw a one-handed bounce pass my freshman year on the break. My coach called me over and said, we don't make passes like that here. Okay. I'm like, that's my pass, put two hands on the ball. All right. So then spin dribbles we all had, step back crossover. We were a disciplined flex team that scored 45 points a game. So I think my sophomore year, I remember having a big game was 16 points, but I was okay with it. Matter of fact, let me get my years correct. My senior year in college, I did not make a 2-point shot until like 4 games to go in the year. All I took was 3-pointers, and that would be like 1 or 2 3-point shots a game.
Wow.
And Greg Marshall, who was the ex-coach of Wichita State, was our assistant coach, and he told me he was going to try to get me in Faces in the Crowd. Remember the whole thing in Sports Illustrated? Because I was going to play a whole season and I never got a layup. And I shot a pull-up jump shot against UNC Asheville. Like, you could have gotten in. I'm like, I didn't even know, man. Like, I had no idea. I didn't take it. I didn't take a 2-point shot, or didn't make a 2-point shot. So crazy.
Well, under such a heavy structure, did you feel like your game developed, or you probably?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I heard Tommy's podcast. The reason Tommy was able to play as a freshman, the same reason I was able to play. We played the right way because we played for a coach that demanded us to play a certain way. Okay. Red just didn't let you go off on your own and do things. And I think that's one of the reasons we were able to go as point guards when we go to college. You have to adapt your game, and Tommy alluded to it. We were always told to get other people involved, throw the ball inside, make a pass to somebody. We were ingrained that at a young age. So yeah, I never took many shots. I probably took 5 shots a game, played 38 minutes a game.
Did you guys have did you get some big wins when you were in college?
Yeah, we did. My senior year, actually, we made the NAI national championships. We beat, I can't remember exactly, but we beat High Point and beat Gardner Webb. Gardner Webb had a kid who played in the pros, Stanley Isherly, played for the New York Knicks. But I remember I hit a big shot in the corner somewhere in that mix, and we go to the NAI national tournament in Kansas City. And ironically, we played the host team, Fort Hays State, who was really good. We didn't play till 6 o'clock at night. I do remember you got on a shuttle bus at 10 o'clock in the morning, go to shoot around, and teams are already lost because there was games at 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, man, we played Transylvania. They're already going home, Wow. So we played Fort Hays State. We scored the first bucket of the game. We're up 2-0. Next thing you know, we're down 17-2. We weren't in the league with Fort Hays State. We just weren't as good. We were good, but we couldn't. My senior year was the worst team I played on in my 4 years. We won 20-something games, but we made the national tournament because we were able to win the thing to get into it. My sophomore year, we were really, really, really good. And we got upset by then Atlantic Christian, who's now Barton College, at our home gym in the team to go to the national tournament. That was probably our most disheartening loss as a player. I remember that one because I remember, wow, we just lost a chance to go to the national tournament. So
who was the Belmont Abbey coach's name again?
I played for 2 different coaches. I played for a guy named Eddie Payne, who Coach Payne was a walk-on at Wake Forest in 1974, hit the winning shot to win the ACC tournament. Okay. Coach Payne coached me for 2 years, left, went to be an assistant coach at South Carolina, and then became head coach at East Carolina and Oregon State. All right. Coach Payne is the only college coach that was a head coach at the junior college, NAI, Division I, Division II, Division III level, like ever. He was head coach for all those years. And then I played for a guy named Kevin Eastman, who, anybody who follows basketball, Kevin was assistant for Doc Rivers for the Celtics when they won a national NBA championship. And Kevin coaches me 2 years, went on to do somewhere. He ended up coaching at UNC Wilmington and Washington State. And not to date us, who was a better coach? Luther Vandross or whoever. Like, they're just different people, different singers, like completely. Coach Payne was fundamental, pivot, inside pivot. Coach Eastman was like, go get the ball, like, and scream at you. So, just 2 different coaches, but though, unbelievable coaches. Yeah.
When Eastman was coaching you, could you go back to your one-handed passes and did you open it up for you a little bit, or did you?
No, we had. Okay, this is you guys don't know who Kevin Eastman is. Kevin Eastman, we had walkthroughs at 6 o'clock in the morning. Not sure why, but we did. And we had 37 entries into the flex. Coach Jenkins was a real technical guy, but a great coach, not a good coach, a great coach. So no, we just, I wasn't. I just wanted to win games.
Right. Yeah.
Like I said, I go back. I grew up playing outside. If you lost, you sat for 2 or 3 games, and it was hot outside. Like you didn't want to lose. So whatever it takes to win, man. That's all. I was about.
So did those guys influence your coaching career in terms of
Yes.
X's and O's?
Yes, I would say the 1, 2. There's 4 people, numerous people, but Coach Jenkins did because he was my high school coach. My brother does because he's a phenomenal coach. My 2 college coaches, Coach Payne, Coach Eastman, because I played for them. And then I worked for a couple other coaches as assistant coaches have influenced me as well. But I would say my college coaches, my high school coach, my brother, more impactful on how we do things, It's changed. I mean, I've been coach 25 years. What I did now is not what I did 25 years ago.
How is Brian influence your coaching? Do you guys talk a lot tactics and strategy? Or
Brian is, you should have him on the podcast. You even forgot if you've ever had a Zoom. Brian's coached every single style. I know you refereed him. Like he's played, we're going to date ourselves, Paul Westhead style. He played the Carolina system, D. Smith style. He played Princeton, and now he's playing wacky ball. Okay. He's playing the crazy thing, what he's doing now, which is heavily influenced by a guy named Dave Davis, who I used to coach against at Belmont Abbey. And he kind of like him and Dave kind of hooked up, and Davis was the assistant coach at Winthrop, and now is assistant coach at College of Charleston, subbing guys in and out. That's Dave Davis and my brother. So yeah. So all of them influenced me.
so, like, if you have an issue or your tactical issue, would you call Brian first, or who'd you call first?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because we'll talk basketball. We will talk basketball. Hey, did you see that quick hitter somebody ran late in the game? Now he plays I jokingly say a wacky style. Now he definitely plays a wacky style, but like there's a rhyme and reason to what they're doing. And I'm not sure if I was supposed to tell people this, but I snuck into their game this year. They played Woodson because I was up there recruiting, and I know you're in the political hotbed of the world where nobody can do anything. Now in Georgia, we're wide open. Okay, so like 25 people out of the game. And I was like, "You're not gonna be able to get in." No, I'll be able to get in. Don't worry. So I went and watched his game against Woodson. That's the first time I've seen Woodson play since I left. Okay. And it's the first time I've seen my brother play in person in a few years. And I mean, the way he plays is unbelievable with a trap and press and shooting threes. I walked past him halftime or in the game. He's up 20. I go, "Better you than me, man. You ain't never seen me play that way." And we joke about it because I got a 7-foot post player down here. So like we just play differently.
Right. So how did you get into coaching? You graduated from Belmont Abbey. So what came next?
I tried to get in college coaching. Coach Eastman, my college coach, said, "If you want to do this, you can stay on here. We'll find a position for you." They were going to make up something for me. He said, "But if you really want to do this for career, you need to get away from Belmont Abbey." I didn't know what he meant at the time. So I went and hired a place called Newberry College, which is in Newberry, South Carolina. And I can tell you this exactly. My salary was $137.50 a month. Okay. I got $1,500 for the year, and then for good, they took taxes out. I'm like, why are they taking taxes out? I'm making $150 a month. Okay, but I was living in a dormitory, eating in the cafeteria, and I worked for a guy named Jack Williams. And Jack's a great guy. Still talk to him this day. I had no idea I was 22 years old. I had no idea what it meant to be a college coach. So he's like, "Hey, there's the phone. Start recruiting guys." I'm like, "Well, how do I do that?" Okay, so I look at newspapers. I mean, this is the stuff we did when I got into 1989. Well, one day I said to Jack, I said, "We're not a very good rebound team." He said, "Well, just give me a drill. What's the drill I can get you?" I'm like, "What?" So he gave me a lot of latitude because he wanted somebody with a lot of ideas. So it couldn't be, "Hey, we're a bad rebound team." He'd be like, "Hey, let's fix it. You show me, you run the drill." So at a young age, I was able to get into coaching. I really kind of got the fever then. It's funny because, and you remember, who was the guy that played at Robinson in 1989? A guard.
Was it Sean Johnson?
No, white guard, Chris.
Oh, Chris Ely. Chris Ely. So I saw Chris Ely play his senior year when I was working for Newberry. Because I was like, I went home to see my parents. And I went and walked, because I was kind of recruiting them. I can't remember who they played. I don't know where Chris ended up going, but I didn't have as much control over the recruiting the head coach did. So that's how I started out at Newberry College. And then I came to Augusta College.
where I'm at now. I came here as assistant for 6 years for the very guy, Clint Bryan, who saw me play. He hired me as assistant coach. And then I went to Hampton University for 1 year in the Tidewater, the first year of Division I basketball, and then got the Belmont Abbey job at 29 years old, coming out of Hampton. Quick story about, because I heard Oliver say it. Oliver was coaching at Dayton. Frank Smith obviously played against me in high school. Hampton's playing Dayton. It's late December, after Christmas. Snow everywhere. Because we had played at Marshall and we got snowed in. And there's no cell phones then, okay? So we got stuck in Marshall. We're practicing in Marshall for 2 days. I don't know what it was. So we go to Dayton to play. And I'm like, well, surely they're not going to play this game. And the guy at the hotel says, 2 things I can guarantee you. The roads will be cleared and that parking lot of Dayton basketball will be clear. I'm like, Hampton University, first year Division I, playing at Dayton, had to be 12,000 people in the game. I'm like, wow, this is because I said nobody's going to be at this game. It was an awful downpour stuff. That's how important Dayton basketball is. And Oliver's 100% right on that.
What was it like coaching at a historical Black university at Hampton?
I first got into it. I got hired by a guy named Byron Samuels, who actually worked for Coach Eastman at Wilmington. Byron got the job. I didn't really know what historical Black college was, to be honest with you. And when I went there, I was only there about 10 months because I got the Belmont Abbey job. I remember recruiting 2 things about it. Hampton University is a name that everybody knows. Mm-hmm. Hampton, Howard, and Morehouse. Okay. Ironically, I had assistant coaches leave me 2 years ago, who's now at the Naval Academy. I told him, I said, Drew, you're at the Naval Academy, the Naval Academy. When you walk into a place, you are the Naval Academy. Okay. Well, I worked at Hampton. It was the Hampton way. I mean, Hampton University carries some weight. Okay. When we go recruiting, people be like, I want my kid to go to historical Black college or they don't. I was shocked the number of parents said, I don't want my child to go to historical Black college. I'm like, why wouldn't you? Okay. But Hampton's name, we're playing at GW my first year and they see the bus, Hampton University, and people stop. Hey, I went to Hampton in 1974. My aunt went, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So it was a great learning experience and just got the opportunity to go be a head coach. And I knew after being an assistant coach for 8 years, I'm like, hey, I want my own gig, man. I want to be my own head coach.
So at Belmont Abbey, at that time, were they NCAA by the time you joined?
Yes. I took over a program. We had a lot of success when I played there. I took over the program. Bobby Lutz, who was head coach at Charlotte, told me, don't do it. It's a graveyard. Last 4 coaches there, you'll never win there. And I'm like, man, I played here. This is the best 4 years of my life, And I got there, we won 7 the first year or something, 10 or something, and then we took off after that. It's all about getting players, man. Cut through all the crap. And I was able to get some guys there to play. And it's a different situation, Belmont, no question.
Well, speaking of getting players, I mean, how do you recruit for Division II? Because you heard Oliver saying when he was at Clemson, you get the guys that UNC and Duke doesn't want, or the ones that are down the list a little bit. Division II, when you see a player and he's that good, you're like, all right, well, probably won't get him. I mean, how does a Division II coach recruit?
You just got to be patient. You got to be patient. You've got to just be patient. Like, you have to be able to project their level. Okay, so I did this because we signed a kid last year from Washington, D.C. When Dan signed with us, he was the 17th player that signed from the D.C. area to Augusta University in my time. Now, I can't throw my Belmont out. I didn't go back and count my Belmont Abbey guys, but there's a 17th guy that came from the D.C. area. I had more from the D.C. area than I did from Georgia. Okay, because I was patient with it, and I know this is the guy we need for our program. And often we lose out to Radford, we lose out to Division Ones. We actually lost out to a local kid here to Air Force Prep. We're going to lose out on kids. Okay, but you just got to be patient. Got to be patient and know when to reel them in. We're like a buzzard flying around. We go in there and get them. So it's got to be patient and know what you're looking for. I want a true point guard. So when I go look at kids, if guys take, that's not what we really want. But you just got and you got to develop players. You got to develop players.
Do you start the recruiting process early, or because you're Division II, you may want to wait and see where they're going to end up? Or do you start like junior year? Do you start looking at them?
Yeah, Coach Bryan, who I work for, my athletic director, he calls it the state of Augusta. All right, so the state of Augusta for us is a 180-mile radius of Augusta, so a 3-hour radius. So that includes Atlanta, Charlotte, Savannah. Right now, we may not see every kid, but we're going to know about them. Okay, we're going to know, especially through internet, we're going to know what they are. And I would even argue like the state of Augusta include for me is the DC area a little bit. Now, I don't know who the best juniors are right now because of the pandemic. I haven't been out as much, but we're going to know where those guys are. We don't start recruiting them as juniors. We really recruit them when they get to their senior year, and we have to make sure that we know, okay, if VCU's offered, we're out. If Radford's offered, we're out. If Norfolk State's offered, we're out. Okay. But if it's hovering around and kids don't have offers, if I hear prep school, I'm out. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we offer scholarships. Hey, come on here, get your free education. Nobody turns down free money these days. And it's very, very unique recruiting division. It's impossible to explain, or my sister was out this weekend looking at kids for next year. And we have a kid visiting tomorrow for this year. So it's never ending cycle.
Do you talk to your old Northern Virginia contacts that are still coaching high school up here? If you got the right kid, give me a call. Yeah. Yeah,
I'll tell you what, you'll remember this because you follow high school basketball. I don't know if you're still you still refereeing. How long ago did you stop refereeing?
I stopped in 2005, but I kept going to games until 2012 or so.
Okay, so we recruited Daniel Dixon from Marshall High School.
Yeah. I coached summer league at Marshall, so I know him.
All right, so I go see, I call him Flea. All right. I go see Flea play his senior year against South Lakes at Marshall. And I'm watching him and I'm going, this joker's 150 pounds soaking wet. Okay. So Kevin Weir, his high school coach, was very helpful. And Red was helpful. So even my brother, I'm like, he goes, oh yeah, because he had a ponytail like at his junior year. And I had a kid named Steve Smith who played for me at Belmont Abbey, played at Edison. Well, Steve was coming down this way, transferred with me when I got the job. So I go see Flea play, and I'm like, man, this kid's good. And I don't know who South Lakes had, but they had at least one college player, if not two college players. Kevin played a weird style, kind of slow down style. I remember going back the next day at the high school. I remember going to Kevin, I go, I'm offering that kid a scholarship. All right. Fast forward. Red goes to the regional championship. He calls me. He goes, Scotty Reynolds is a better player than Daniel Dixon. But Daniel Dixon will be a better player for you than you'll ever imagine. And Daniel Dixon came down here, started for 4 years, lost the national championship, lost in the Final Four, and he was 150 pounds soaking wet. So like in a weird way, I do communicate with high school coaches. This year's kind of been screwed up. But my brother knows who the best players are. I mean, because he coaches there. Red knows who they are, People are biased toward their guys a little bit, I don't say I strictly in Northern Virginia. Got PG County kids on my team, Montgomery County kids. Anywhere in the DC area, Baltimore, even within an hour radius, I call it DMV, I guess. So yeah, I have, because we don't have as much money to go up there to recruit kids. So when I go up there, I got to make most of my bang for my buck.
So one of the biggest wins you had at Belmont Abbey is when you guys beat College Charleston. And I think they were on a winning streak, and you guys took them down early in the season. Do you remember much about that season and that game?
I do, because John Kress is one of the best coaches in the country, ever. So we go down there, and I remember saying, we had a good team, a really good team. It was the year we made the NCAA tournament. I got to the Sweet 16, Elite 32. And we go down there, and I'm like, we can hang with these guys a little bit, all right? Well, we're playing. Of course, they're not ready to play. All right. Well, we're winning the game. Well, I do remember because the last play of the game John Kress ran was a play that I was at a clinic with John Kress, Tubby Smith, and Kevin Eastman when I was just coming out of college. It was called Special. So the ball hit the high post, and they double flare screen. I go, oh my God, they're going to get a wide open three on a play that I used to run in college. And Jeff Bolton, ironically, is from Augusta, missed the shot. All right. And I'm like, we just beat the College of Charleston. I said, this is unbelievable. So fast forward, we're at a dinner that night. Same thing. We took 2 vans down there. Okay. In Belmont Abbey, you could drink beer. All right. I ain't disappointed. You could drink beer, you do whatever you want in Belmont Abbey. So we took 2 vans and we went to a restaurant. Went to a restaurant, and the guy who owned the restaurant was a Belmont Abbey grad. He grabbed me afterwards. He goes, hey, team's everything on me. He goes, don't let this be your biggest win of the year. I'm like, we ain't gonna get any better wins than this. We should be a Division I team. Well, we ended up beating Queens in the conference championship, and then getting to the only team from our league to get the NCAA tournament, won a game, and then got beat by Salem Tokyo out of West Virginia. So, yeah, I do remember that game because it got us in Sports Illustrated. You know, Little Belmont Abbey beats College of Charleston, and the fact that Coach Kress is such a great coach. You know.
Also, everyone said, or people told you that Belmont Abbey wasn't the place to go, and it looks like you turned it around. You beat College of Charleston, yet you made tournament runs. So it must have been difficult, or were you ready for a new challenge? So when
you know, Belmont Abbey's great. You know, the reason I'm bad for this podcast is because I left there in 1984. I haven't really gotten back to Northern Virginia. Okay, because I have either lived in Belmont, North Carolina, where I coached for 8 years and went to college for 4, or coached 9 years, or I lived in Augusta because I was assistant for 6. I went to Hampton for 1 year in Newberry. So the last whatever years, I've only been to 2 different places. So when the Augusta job opened up, it's a better facility, a little better situation, and I knew I could keep guys. At Belmont Abbey, we had 600 students. All right. Augusta, we're a commuter school, kind of like George Mason used to be a long time ago. And I felt if I could get kids, I could keep them here easier. I had a hard time keeping guys at Belmont Abbey just because there was nothing for me. It was, 500 students. Come on. So I came to Augusta and I knew it was a better chance to compete nationally. And that's what we're able to do, compete nationally more.
Was it a tougher conference than Belmont Abbey? Was it?
Yeah, you know what? It is, but it isn't. Our Belmont Abbey team that beat College of Charleston, even the Belmont Abbey team the following year, we were as good as a lot of teams in the Peach Belt. Top to bottom is a harder league because state system resources are a little bit better than private schools at that time. Now it's kind of flipping right now because people are trying to get students to come to college, so they're buying kids at private schools. But tougher. Yes, probably a tougher league overall. Yes, the bottom team, the Peach Belt, is better than the bottom team in Belmont Abbey State.
But it didn't really change your recruiting process. It's probably easier to get kids to fall in love with Augusta, and you have more access to kids there, but the process was all the same.
Yeah, the process is very similar. Like I said, just a different situation. Our guys live in apartments here. We're not the Frisbee and the Quad, but we're just different down here. Belmont Abbey is unique because we had monks wearing robes, and Augusta is different because we have 4 different campuses, and it's just different, but that's fine.
Yeah. So one of your best players was this guy named Keyshawn Sherrill, who was a small guard probably a little smaller than you were, about my size. Who's playing over in Europe now.
He can shoot better than you.
Yeah. I can edit this thing. I can edit these parts out of the podcast. But how did you get him? Did you know he was going to be a great player? And just tell us a little bit about him.
Keyshawn Sherrill, went to see him play. Me and my assistant, we saw 4 kids all play the same day. And Keyshawn was the last one I saw him play. Keyshawn played for my roommate in college. Best man at my wedding. He kept telling me, you got to recruit this kid. You got to recruit this kid. I'm calling all the Division I people I know in, say, North Carolina. Hey, y'all need to recruit this kid. Girl, he's the best man at my wedding. Nobody offers him a scholarship. So I go up there and I watch him. And I'm like, wow, he's really good. He picks up fouls. Girl doesn't start him the second half. And he's over there coaching the guy who took his spot on the court. So we saw 4 kids that day. I'm getting in the car, driving back with my assistant. I go, you realize that our best chance of getting anybody is Keyshawn. He's the best one of them all. And all the other guys are going to go Division I. He goes, you think so? And ironically, 2 of the 4 went Division I. 1 went to junior college, and Keyshawn came to us. Great player. And I've coached some other great ones here, but Keyshawn is on the Mount Rushmore of players. Getting AJ Bowman I took when I got here, All-American, led us to a national championship. Garrett Seiler played 1 year for the Phoenix Suns, 7-foot kid that didn't play high school basketball. So, but Keyshawn as a person and player, the best I've ever been around. Still playing, he's playing in Turkey right now, making pretty good money. Probably has a chance to move up another league. He'll play until he gets injured. Yeah, great kid.
Yeah. So how many wins are you up to now? You're getting close to a record, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I got 500 during the year. I have one of my players that gives me a running total now. 501, 502 is kind of a running joke right now. Our year this year was a mess because of COVID. We were 2-0, ranked 10th in the country. We got 5 guys declared out for the year for COVID reasons. We were doing cardiac MRIs. It was whatever we were doing was really aggressive in the approach. So it was awful, but we were able to get win number 500 this year. And we have a chance to be very good again next year. We've got everybody back. They lose your eligibility. We got a good chance to be good, I think.
So are there lessons that you learned during COVID that you'll take forward? Like for example, I had some high school coaches out here one day, and they say it's so much easier to scout your opponents now because you have all the YouTube clips. And they've had to learn to do more with less during COVID. So there might be ways so they can implement these and going forward. Have you had some lessons during COVID that you think could be helpful?
Yeah, get vaccinated. One of my players at graduation's mom asked me this question: was it worth it to play this year? We had 2 or 3 games. We had 7 guys dressed. Okay. I go back to the same thing. I grew up playing outside, man. Let's go take our 5 and go play. Okay. What I learned is this. Someone like myself and my brother have been doing this for a long, long time. It was hard for us because we didn't get the practice time we used to get. You're out for this guy's out. These 4 guys are out today. So it was an awful experience. You can never underestimate the value of team camaraderie. Okay. And there were teams that won this year. And, Miller won national championship. Great, good for them. Because it was really, really hard because we base our program on doing a lot of stuff with our guys. And we're in a state where things are wide open. We had no fans at games this year. We're in a state that's wide open. But I understand that because we're a medical hospital. We're a medical university. So, scouting, preparation, recruiting, everything changed this year for the last 13 months. Hopefully we're getting back to normal. So yeah, it was a disaster. It was, I met a first-year head coach, a very cocky comment he made me. It was a Division I coach. I said, well, you concerned about coaching this year, being your first year as head coach in the COVID era. And he looked me dead in the eye. He goes, every coach I'm coaching against is dealing with COVID. And I'm looking at him, I go, dude, you ain't never called a timeout. All right. You've never dealt with the stuff you're going to deal with as a head coach. You've been an assistant all your life. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't as easy as you thought. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the portal and the kids that are moving around quickly? Is that making your job much tougher?
Yes and no. I'm going to say something that probably people don't think is true. The COVID has hurt kids recruiting, but it really hasn't. If you're good enough, we're going to find you. Okay. Now the portal has hurt things, but really what's hurting high school kids coming out right now is the fact that everybody gets their eligibility back. Okay. So what happens is if you're a senior this year, you're coming back as a senior. If you're a junior, come back as a junior. So it's hurt opportunity. So the portal has affected some things, and we've got 1 transfer coming from Georgia Southern. It was probably the easiest portal I could ever dealt with because when I called him, he said, I want to finish my degree in marketing. I want to get my master's in teaching. I want to coach in high school. Like he had a plan. All right. Well, the portal is giving people too easy to give up. I guess if I had it back at WT Woodson, I could put my name in the portal and transfer to West Springfield because I wasn't playing much. You don't learn any toughness when you leave places. And, okay, so ironically, the kids that I'll use the example of this. If a kid goes from Robinson to Paul VI to Evangel Christian, you're not getting a call from Augusta because I know you're running from something. I really do, So if you go to Lake Braddock for 3 years and you stay at Lake Braddock, I'll recruit you. But if you bounce around, I'm not recruiting you because we're not a place where you're going to stay at. Okay. So, Fork Union, great prep school down there by Charlottesville. If a kid went from high school to Fork Union, probably to help his recruiting. But if you go back and look at his past, he's been to 3 different high schools, then go to Fork Union. Well, he's looking for something that's not there. That portal is full of guys that transferred high schools or played on weird prep schools. That's my theory. Yeah. If you're good enough, stick where you're at,
Yeah. How about parents who are looking to reclassify their kid just until this dust settles? Because as you said before, some kids are getting extra years. I think you just get their kid 1 more year, maybe the dust will settle. It'll be easier for him. Is that more acceptable?
100% makes sense. 100% sense. I tell every parent, if you get a scholarship offer and you're a senior this year, you better take it because it's hard, because of the portal, because of eligibility. So if you look at your option and go, you know what, I'm not, I need to get stronger, I need to get better. I can see that. That's no problem because you're trying to help your kid out. And this is a good one. You'll appreciate this one. If you as a parent know your son can't use his left hand, guess what? We'll notice it too as college coaches. And we'll notice it a whole lot earlier than you did. So if your son is taking, you would know what a bad shot is, okay? But if your son's out there taking bad shots and you think that's going to help him, and the coaches aren't going to notice it, you can forget about that. We're going to notice that stuff because that's what we do for a living. On film, on Zoom, on video, in person, we notice guys not running back on defense. We notice guys not cheering for their teammates. So, a lot of it is if you're just not quite good enough. Like when I came out of Woodson High School, if I'd have went to Fork Union, I probably would have ended up at Belmont Abbey. That's what my level was. That's okay. That's where I went to school. So it's just weird right now.
So you mentioned earlier you have a 7-foot center, and you also mentioned that your brother plays kind of a wacky style. Your words, not mine. Where are you now? What are you positionless? What exactly are you doing now with your team?
You sound like one of those parents I talked to. You are what position you can guard. Okay. So you want to call it positionless basketball. If you're a point guard, you better guard point guard. You could guard me. Okay. I could guard you. Tommy Amaker couldn't guard Len Bias. I don't care what position you talk about playing. So we are next year, hopefully everything goes well recruiting and finish up here. We'll be a 4-round-1 team because he's 7 foot, 275 pounds. We have another 6'8" guy, 260. And they only can operate around the basket. Okay. Well, I'm not going to let him shoot jump shots. I'm not. That's the Red Jenkins in me. Get yourself on the block. So yeah, we are a motion team, I guess, 4-round-1. But I say, just like my brother, I started out coaching the flex. I started being a quick hitter guy. I started being running up tempo. Oh golly, blocker mover like Tony Bennett did, and then 4 out. I'll adapt to whatever my personnel is. That's part of coaching.
Right. You mentioned Georgia Southern earlier. I remember a few years ago, maybe more than a few years ago though, but you're on a short list people to take that job. It was just a rumor, but it looked like you were being considered. Have you thought much about Division I schools over the years, or have you had an offer?
Yeah, there were some windows there. Georgia Southern, Kennesaw State. Georgia Southern at the time hired a guy named CY, Charlton Young, assistant coach at Florida State. Great guy, great person. CY was a graduate of Georgia Southern. He should have been hired over me. Okay. I've seen other programs hire guys and I go, they're going to be looking for a coach in 2 or 3 years. One of my things I love to do, probably unlike most college coaches, is I go around and watch college practices. Okay. That's my thing. That's my hobby. I don't play golf. Red Jenkins said, don't play golf until you win 20 games as head coach. Well, I won 20 games as head coach. So I go around and watch college practices. That's one of my favorite things to do. Okay. I can go to a college practice and go, well, this guy's not going to be coaching here 3 or 4 years unless he got some assassins on the recruiting trail. You'd be amazed at the number of high school practices that are as good, if not better, than college practices, in my mind, because my brother runs a great high school practice. Okay. I've seen them at the practice. I've seen when I go recruiting, I go watch people practice, as part of it too. And Red Jenkins, come down a 3-on-2 break. You come to a stop, you pass the ball to the wing, step to your pass. You got taught that when you were at Braddock Road Youth Sports. Now you see guys coming down a 3-on-2, and you're like, well, where are you going? There's 2 guys there. Why are you trying to Euro step past 2 guys? If college programs aren't emphasizing those fundamentals, they're not going to be any good. So just like high school coaches. So I have my window, but now I just want to coach out my career and sell Christmas trees on the side of the road when I'm done.
Yeah. Well, so one thing I was talking to a girls' college soccer coach, and she was telling me that parents actually call her. Parents are an issue. I always thought, like, once you got to high school, parents don't call. It's not like youth league when you're paying your money to play. You're not supposed to call the high school coach. But I understand there's parents that try to call the college coaches now. They're getting involved. Have you had to deal with parents over the years?
I'm usually make it pretty clear when I recruit them that I'll talk to them anytime about their son, about how they're doing socially and how they're doing academically. But if they're calling to ask a basketball question, there probably won't be another question, because I'll say, just take your son and go somewhere else. Okay. Right. Now, sometimes during the process, you have to explain to parents, hey, listen, Julian's good, but he's got to get better at these areas and he'll play here. Okay. I'm not going to tell you which school, but I was talking to an ACC coach less than a week ago. And he said, I get off the bus. We have a road wind. By the time I get to the bus, I got parents calling me saying, why did my son play tonight? Like, man, I'm not having that. Like, and at the highest level, you got to deal with the whole guys wanting to be pros and all that stuff. But no, so I really don't have many parents. Now, I'm not saying I haven't, but I've always been pretty upfront. Hey, listen, understand this, don't ever call. And I'm pretty clear in practice, like, hey, if you don't do this, you're not playing. I just tell them. I'm brutally, brutally honest to my players. And it does happen in college. Fortunately, I haven't had to deal with it too much in the 25 years as head coach. A little bit, maybe because I'm a little more established now, they may not question me. But I do remember watching a film session with my players, and I heard the dad in the background saying, "You can't show on a ball." And I paused it and I said, "Hey, so-and-so, if I hear from your dad again, you'll be going home with the next time. Like, I'm not having that. Like, I don't need a parent over there telling me how to coach." Now they all tell them, they all do under their breath. I get it. Ask their kid. I always say, ask your son. I tell him, he can come any practice you want. Sit there every day. You sit right there in the front row. But until you come to practice, don't question why they're playing the game. And I really don't have a problem with it.
I would have thought it'd been the exact opposite. I would have thought the ACC, those top schools, the parents could never call the coach. In the smaller schools, you have to deal with the parents. I can't believe it's the exact opposite.
See these things right here? That's the problem, because you can get accessible. Okay, so like come on, man. Like, you had to call when you're at home. You had to call after 7 o'clock at night when you called your parents because they didn't want to run up the long distance bill. Now you can text and call people anytime you want. So they feel people are accessible. And ironically, when you recruit kids, I always tell my assistant, if we're recruiting and we text them, we don't hear from them, well, they're busy. Well, I ain't that busy now. It's been 24 hours. Okay. They've picked up their phone. So I think the thing is, nowadays you have such accessibility to kids and coaches because of phones, because of, I mean, if you're playing for Duke, you have Coach K's cell number. Okay. Parents do because they recruited your son. I was at a coaching clinic 6 years ago, and I actually taught my brother about this. Well, how much do you reach out to your players' parents during the year? I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Well, do you call me? No, I'm not calling him. I tell the parents, if I call you, something's gone wrong. Now I'll speak to them at my games, all that stuff, but I'm not reaching. I'm not going, hey, Julian, your son's doing well today in practice. He practiced hard. I mean, he's playing for me. Now, if there's an issue, and you can reach out, hey, he didn't do well on his test. Yeah, we'll get him a tutor. Okay. But it's never about, we'll go play at Bowie State this year. Okay. I got 5 guys from DC area. Their moms are all, I know the question for us. What time's practice? Okay. It's going to be practice this time. Hey, man, y'all go home. Just be back at this time next day. After the game, coach will have food for, great. Sounds good to me. Like, I want them as part of my program, but, my brother, in one of his fits of rage, when a parent complained to him, he asked her what she did for a living. And she said, I work from home. I'm not work from home. I'm a housewife. My brother said, I don't come and teach you how to clean your house. Don't tell me how to coach your son. Okay. Well, I think that's why my brother's been a successful coach. Like, I mean, come on, man. This is our job. I mean, this is what we do for him. So get him on the podcast. He's a lot better than me.
Well, last question. What would the success have been the same if you and Brian would have switched and you'd have been the high school coach and Brian would have been the college coach?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Brian's great, man. Like, he's great. I don't know if he can play that wacky style he's doing now, but like, no, he knows what he's doing. He was able to develop his coaching prowess working for Don McCool, and look, Don McCool teams aren't Brian's teams right now. They're completely different. When Brian went to the Princeton style, Don McCool never knew that. Brian always gives me a hard time. Red holds the ball in the big game. And so does Don McCool. Okay. So, I mean, because you're trying to win the game. Okay. Yeah. So as a coach, you got to look out there and go, okay, what I got to do to win? All right. Some coaches say, I don't play any zone. Oh, I do. I'll hop in a zone. If you take bad shots, I'm going to keep playing it. Okay. So now Brian be successful at college as he is in high school. No question.
Would you have been happy as a high school coach and teaching like English or PE or whatever?
Well, when I graduated college, I graduated with a political science degree. I took the teaching test in Charlotte because I had no idea what I was going to do. And then I was prepared to go coach in high school and teach. Now, no offense to Utopia of Northern Virginia, I had no desire to go back to live up that way. I got no desire to deal with the traffic, the weather, None of it. Okay. So if I would have been a high school coach, I probably would have been a high school coach in Charlotte. Never lived. I just don't want to live. I mean, that's just my preference of a lifestyle. So nobody retires and moves north. Just remember that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so you got to tell Brian, because I have no way to get a hold of him. Tell him that your old Shark teammate Julian wants to do a podcast of that. He doesn't even have YouTube, so I don't even know if he knows what that is.
He can do it because he's got to do this stuff for teaching somehow. So I'll reach out to him. I'll send him. Yeah, because I forwarded him your email when you sent it. He's like, yeah, he was like, I think he's mad at me because I called him a bad referee. I'm like, probably. Were you a bad referee during those days?
I probably was, but I don't think it's very easy to referee Brian's game. He's not the happiest guy in the world. But you know, of all the years of officiating, I don't think I've ever did a game, or if I did a game, he won by 20. So he can only be so mad at me.
Did you do games when he's back at Hayfield or Lake Braddock?
I did it. It was definitely back at Hayfield. But you know, I refereed Northern Virginia for 17, 18 years, and you know, I didn't get tons of big games. Right. So you know, if he was mad at me, he's probably just having a bad day.
No, it's just Brian being Brian, man. That's not. I'll send you his contact information. You just email him. He'll if he can figure out how to do this stuff, he'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been great, man. And you've had a great journey. I'm so happy for your success, and you know, hopefully, maybe if they allow fans, if you guys are going to be at Bowie State, maybe we'll.
Is the world opening up there? Down here, we're pretty wide open. I mean, is it opened up or?
Yeah. Right now, I guess just starting last week, I think I went to a concert last night at the Birchmere, and people were acting pretty normal. So I think we might have a real basketball season this year.
I tell you what's odd. I went to Walmart yesterday, and 90% of people had masks on. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought they said we could take it off. So let's just get through the pandemic. I'll send the information to my brother, and hopefully you get him on here. All right. Great talking to you, Julian.
Yeah, great seeing you, Dip. I'll talk to you soon. All right, buddy. Take care.